people, my tribe, my circle. For the ones who show up, who care, who stay. For the ones who celebrate me, believe in me, support me. For the connections that matter, the relationships that grow. I'm grateful for the love I receive and get to give. My tribe is my greatest blessing. I'm grateful for my inner circle. The people who know me deeply love me anyway. The people who challenge me, inspire me, make me better. The people who I can be 100% myself around, without judgment, without fear. My tribe makes my life rich with meaning. I'm grateful for the chosen family I've created. For the people who feel like home. For the bonds that were meant to be. For the connections that were divinely arranged. For every conversation, every laugh, every moment. My gratitude for my tribe is endless. I used to think I had to do life alone. I used to believe that asking for help was weakness. But my tribe showed me that connection is strength. That community is beautiful. That I'm more powerful with my people. I'm so grateful for them. I'm grateful for my tribe. They're my lifeline. I'm grateful for my tribe. I'm grateful for my tribe. They're divine. For the people who love me unconditionally, I'm grateful for my tribe. So beautiful, my life is richer because of them. I'm grateful for my tribe, my everything. Thank you for being in my life. I'm grateful for my tribe. You make it right. I'm grateful for my tribe. You make it right, you make it right. I'm grateful for my tribe. My tribe brings out the best in me. My tribe makes me feel like I belong. My tribe reminds me that I'm not alone. My tribe is my greatest gift. I'm grateful for every single person in my circle. I am blessed with amazing people.
Welcome to Do Good Work Podcast, hosted by Terrell J'Quen and J'Quen Johnson. We specialize in taking a deep dive into issues that truly matter. Each episode unpacks the challenges and opportunities facing today's leaders, from classrooms to boardrooms, offering insights that inspire real change. By redefining success, we're changing lives, empowering people everywhere to create environments where everyone feels a sense of belonging, whether at home, work, or school. So hey, sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we explore the issues shaping our futures, one meaningful conversation at a time. Let's go!
Happy Sunday to you and welcome to the show, every single one of you out there in listening land, and welcome to Do Good Work Podcast. I'm your co-host, Terrell, joined in the studio by my co-host,
J'Quen Johnson.
in the house. And so we've got a great show for you tonight and looking forward to sharing so much more. But before we go too much further, do us a favor, help us share this all across platforms, like, share, retweet, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're coming to you across those platforms, including YouTube and X. And so we want to appreciate you for liking, sharing, let folks know we're on. I'm going to try to do a few of them myself. There are a couple already out there, but for some reason my Facebook is acting up. Y'all know it's a live show, so there's nothing I can do about that right now. But if it pulls up, then I'll get it into some groups, and we appreciate you for being there. Drop us a comment in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from for the show, and y'all know how we do it. We will put your comments on the screen if you put them in the chat. Put your comments in the chat if you want them on the screen. You can put it on any platform. If we see it, we'll post it. But if you don't want your comment on the screen, you just want us to talk about it, then know this, that we appreciate you for tuning in. Your voice does matter. And so You can call into the show live, 713-496-2717. Again, 713-496-2717. And we will talk to you. Or you can text us at that number, 713-496-2717. And what we'll do is we will just address any questions, comments there, but we won't obviously use that. And thanks for those of you who have called in and used that number. It's been a great way to get more people involved. 713-496-2717. We'll have that up there the whole show for you. And speaking of a show, we've got a good one, and my Facebook is up. So I'm going to kick it over to J'Quen, who's going to do his thing to lead us through our opening activity or our opening game while I try to drop this link on a few platforms.
Good deal. And I will also go first so you can have some time to do that. But, every show we do describe your day or week using the first letter of your last name. We got a Johnson. We have Strayhorn, so J and S. Mine this week is job fair. We're moving. Well, we're in August actually. So for higher ed admissions, we're shifting our focus to the 2031 class. That's hard to believe. And we'll be getting a lot more invitations to do job fairs. Now that's also code for like college fair, career fair, and colleges are there. So looking forward to that. We actually have one tomorrow at 8 a.m. My life. So that's super early for me to be there. So I think it's a 3-hour event. So looking forward to connecting with new students, listening to their goals, what institutions they're looking for, majors, and any questions that we can answer. So mine is job fair for Johnson. What about you?
Job fair. Okay. All right. Well, Strayhorn, that is, I'll do this one. I'll do Strayhorn as S. So I'll go with the word station, STATION, station. Why? Because I'm looking at this thing called podcast and radio stations. It's one of the groups on Facebook where you can go and drop a link to get people to come and listen to your podcast. So I'm about to drop it there. But also because in this whole move to just get the message out more in so many different ways in this season, there's a podcast, a radio station. So I don't know if it's called that. It's called TLS Talks, actually. TLS Talks radio station. And so some of you tuned in this week to it. And there's no regular schedule yet for it because it's really easy to do. I mean, just go on the radio and share. But it was fun to do. I did one episode this week where it was like just talking, radio talk. And then the other one was for more music. So I'm going to go with station. All right. So y'all got to take the first letter of your last name, think of a word, and drop it into the chat. I see the chat is live. So let me stop posting and come over here and see what y'all are talking about. All right. We got Nashville in the house. Mocha Maze, TSU. You know that person?
I do not. But hey,
Mocha.
Nashville. We
TSU.
both love Nashville. Shout out to TSU as well.
TSU, shout out. We got Creola from Winston-Salem. Fam, hello. And the word, we got my mom, super good. Super good. That's a good one. And hopeful for another one. So y'all know how to do it. First letter of your last name, pick a word that starts at that letter. You can put it in here. And so you see this is Harris, hopeful. You had Johnson for job fair. And speaking of jobs, let me see what I got over here. Hold on, y'all. This is a live show, so I got to see what I have. Oh, yeah, I got something. Let's see if this works. I mean, not really, but I'll do it. I'll go with it. So speaking of job, someone completed their dissertation this week and defended successfully. So y'all, we got a new doctor. His dissertation on, what day was it?
Thursday.
So
morning.
y'all, come on, put some claps up in the air We got very few folks who get doctorates, and so we got another one now in the house. All right, so tell people, how was it?
Well, first of all, we're not just going to celebrate me. You also got your MBA, so shout out to you as well.
I did get my MBA. Thank you very much.
My friend now has 15 degrees, so I'm still chasing them.
Listen,
go ahead.
You had your MBA before you're part of the reason why I got an MBA. You had yours, Tanita had hers. It's like, it's one of those degrees. I like when people got them. It looks good. So
welcome to the club. We welcome you. We appreciate your work.
Absolutely.
So in terms of mine, I mean, what you want to know? I mean, the title was it was an examination of African American men with disabilities, engagement, perception of campus leadership, sense of belonging in college. I used secondary data. This is data that I did not collect on my own. Findings. The comparative sample was same race, non-disabled men. So that was exciting, interesting to study, to see if there are any differences between their experiences. And one thing that is clear, although it was not statistically significant in the study, belonging scores, they did vary. So again, every student's sense of belonging is not the same. Their experiences are not the same. And that's something we have to think about and make sure that we give them support to increase their belonging on our campus.
Yeah. So, I mean, you found a lot of things. I told you the day that we were talking about your defense, something that I think your like major findings are. One is this idea that everyone has needs, and oftentimes people will, in higher ed, really not just higher ed, education, they'll frame support for people with disabilities, which we call accommodations, as like special, add-on, extra, above and beyond. Sometimes you'll even find people who will sort of frame this as unfair, like they get supports. For example, for those who aren't familiar, in higher ed, post-secondary, and college, if a student has a medically documented disability of any kind, it could be and disabilities, which we just published a chapter. We should talk about that too. But in that chapter, we published that table that appears on a lot of job applications and college applications that ask, do you have a disability? I think when people hear, do you have a disability, they're always thinking an obvious one, right? So obviously, not obviously, but being visually blind or impaired is a disability. Hearing loss is a disability. There are people who have mobility challenges, and those can be disabilities. But so too, according to the disability chart, is diabetes and HIV. I mean, if you have these medical conditions, you can declare them as disabilities. And with medical support or note, you can get accommodations, right? So for example, as higher ed educators ourselves, a student in our class could deserve longer time to take their tests because maybe they're dealing with a learning impairment that requires them extended time to work on the same task that someone else might be able to get done in a different amount of time. You can, for example, an accommodation might be that you would get a note taker, someone who would take notes for you while you're in class. The university would have to assign someone who would then take notes for and with you if you have that accommodation. Or I'll give one more, see if you got any to give them a good example of it. So I've had this happen actually, where a student could have a medically supported request for accommodations that's approved, and therefore get my lecture notes. I would have to give them a physical copy of my lecture notes because they need time to either put it through some sort of reader or read it again later or have it read to them. So all of those are accommodations. Any examples come to your mind?
Yeah, one thing is like a support animal. I think that there are some students out there who have, mental health challenges, or like you said, physical disabilities that they need a support animal to help them, get through school, walk to class. Maybe they have, epilepsy or something. The dog can't, or the animal could alert them before it happens, or alert someone before it happens, get help if it happens, things of that nature.
Yeah. So those are accommodations. Well, at most universities and schools, people treat those like special favors or gifts that we give to students. And we have, since we've been working on the disabilities front, we've been advocating and helping people understand they're not special favors. They actually are the law. The federal law is that when a person has a clinically or medically diagnosed and supported disability that fits that list, they are due these accommodations. And so we've met folks at universities all across the globe who will sometimes say, well, I think that's unfair, so I'm not going to do it. You actually can't not do that. You have to give them. But what I think your dissertation does pretty nicely is it shows that these aren't just legal things to do and kind supports to give a student. They're academic success kind of supports. Like, by doing this, students do better, right? By giving students what they need, they will do better. And some students need longer time. Some students need brighter light. Some students need an emotional support dog. I've had a student who couldn't take a test in the class with other people because of the anxiety, clinically diagnosed anxiety that was activated in high stress environments around people. So I had to give them their test, either a proctored exam on their own, or I had to give them permission to go take it somewhere else. And guess what? The student was successful in my class, in part, I think, because I gave them those supports, those accommodations. So that's great that your study shows that if you want Black men to be successful in college, especially those who live with disabilities, give them accommodations, but don't make it feel like it's something special above and beyond. It's just the supports they need to be successful.
Absolutely. Key, right? It's nothing special about it. It's just support so they can be successful. Everyone needs assistance and help in some way, form, or fashion, and we don't look at it as special treatment. So that's one point that I think that was made very clear in that dissertation. The second one is that we are right now focusing on a lot on the academic side of student experiences, but there's also non-academic stressors that we can support students navigate through. Such one is like housing. One of the studies we did, and we kind of mentioned it in the dissertation, is that all students, the dorms that they live in, or maybe are the dorms accessible? Do they have the space that they need to move around if they're wheelchair bound to the bathroom, to the bedroom? Transportation is also a big thing. There's a lot of students who may not, if you're on a and another thing too is, like, you don't have to be born with a disability, right? We can walk outside right now and break our foot and have to be on crutches, right? Temporary disability. So a student doesn't want to walk around campus all day with just crutches, right? So, are there buses that pick students up at certain spots so they can get from one side of campus to another? Food insecurities as well. Like, are those things that we are noticing? Because these are also, like, mostly invisible. Some students don't want to share that they have a disability, which add extra barriers.
Yeah. So. And I decided I'm changing your name. For the night, you're going to be Dr. Johnson.
Thank you.
But no, so I'm thinking about the fact that, we have seen, what's wrong?
Well, one thing, we don't do that. So let's, if I'm doctor, you gotta be doctor as well.
But I mean, I've been, okay. You're right. I'll do it for tonight. But I mean, come on. Have you? I mean, I'm sure it hasn't kicked in.
Nah, it hasn't really. It hasn't.
Well, you got to put it up there. You earned it. So I was saying about students who. So for those who are listening, in the listening audience, or will watch later, I know I've had moments, because you just talked about visible and invisible disabilities, which is an important distinction. Some disabilities you can see, you understand. Let me tell y'all something. Just remember that there are a lot of invisible disabilities. People who are living with all sorts of, and disabilities, we also learned this, not through your dissertation, but through one of our previous projects. Of course, not all disabilities are medically documented either, because some people don't have access to medical care. Some people don't have access to insurance to go get a doctor, to prescribe or diagnose or prove it. By the way, some people are not comfortable going to doctors. They're just communities. I was just talking about this somewhere. Oh, a reporter the other day called about something, and I was sharing with them. So her question was, do I think it's legitimate or appropriate that some communities of color don't trust the medical professionals? And I was like, to me, it's just a very bizarre question, because of course people can think whatever they want to think. But yes, I don't think we should dismiss the fact that there is a history in this country where medical professionals, not you, not me, not those who are necessarily listening, but back in the day, mishandled certain experiments and certain medications. They tested it on people, and those people who were tested were often and frequently low income, no income, African American, Black, brown folks. And so I think we have to appreciate that history. That's why some people won't go get it. But I'm saying that because the story. A couple of years ago, I was doing a project, and I interviewed someone, and I kept telling them that I think we have a bad connection, that I thought their Wi-Fi was lousy. I didn't say lousy, but I was like, I think we have a bad connection. I don't know if it's your Wi-Fi or my Wi-Fi. Let's log out and log back in. It happened over again, friends. And then I was like, well, maybe it's my microphone, or maybe it's your microphone. It dawned on me at some point, the person has a very noticeable speech impediment, that they stutter. And so I sat here for like 8 minutes in an interview pointing to a technical problem when it wasn't a technical problem at all. It was really an exposure problem for me, that I didn't realize that sometimes you will interview people who have disabilities, and they won't declare it on a form, and there's no assessment that you will know. You just have to have enough awareness and cultural competence. And hopefully, just us calling out on this podcast can raise awareness that sometimes when you're on the phone with people, or you're talking to someone, you're like, wow, I don't know what this is. You never know what you're dealing with. And so I remember at some point when it finally dawned on me, I was like, oh, let me just go with it. Let me record the interview, and then I'll work with the broken audio later. And then you and I did a project together where we had a similar situation. And I remember one of the guys, our normal protocol when we collect data is we always do it together. And if we have any students joining us, then we might do the interview and we'll have them listen in. But for that particular interview, the person lived with anxiety, social anxiety, and was overwhelmed by seeing both of us on the screen, and immediately left the interview. Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yep. And that also brought to our attention that, at least my experience with you is that it doesn't have to always be on screen video on. We could also send the questions to them, and they can write their answers, and then we can record from there, right? So that was a really good experience for me when I was going through that process, because again, I remember that was our very first interview for that study, and we were probably on the screen for not even 3 seconds before they popped off.
Yeah, and we thought, again, maybe it was a technical problem, maybe the Zoom dropped, but no, it's just methodology. Mocha Mays said it best, right? Her word for today is methodology. Listen, methodology is where it's at. So speaking of that, before we get into the first story or first topic, that interview project is the chapter, right? Or no?
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
We did use that.
So we just had a chapter that was published on mental health for African American men, and we built the chapter around the data from our project on Black men living with disabilities, which is not the dissertation, but inspired by some of that work. Mm-hmm. And so we'll be sure to share that with you. Maybe we'll bring it into the next episode or something and talk a little bit about those findings. But if I'm not mistaken, did we just finish Disabilities Month, or are we going into Disabilities Month?
I think we just finished. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we want to pause and take a moment to just celebrate all those who are living with forms of disability, big, small, visible, invisible, and let you know that the book chapter is titled, do you remember?
I really don't.
Disabled lives matter.
Too. Yeah.
Disabled lives matter too. Yeah. So we just want to say that, from Do Good Work, whole entire team, the enterprise of all of the podcasts, the consulting work, that we see you matter, you are enough just the way you are, and you belong here. So I'll kick it over to you I'll kick it over to me to talk about the first thing, but I know that first thing is a video clip, right?
No, we got to go through job fair.
Oh, kick it over to you.
Or job segment, whatever that may be. So for me, what do I say about jobs? I think that I think your next job will most likely come from one meaningful conversation than your next probably 50 applications. And I'm not advising you to stop applying. I'm just advising you to spend as much time building relationships as you do clicking apply. I think that many job seekers underestimate the power of referrals, direct outreach, and introductions. I think that it can move when you have meaningful conversations with people and you connect with others, share your skills, what you offer, so forth. It can move your application from the desk from the database to someone's desk.
Yeah. So you're saying don't underestimate the power of people in networking?
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of my colleagues, I won't speak in code, Dr. Arletha McSwain often talks about the importance of relationships, and that of all of her years of working in different places, what she values the most, other than, obviously she's been one who's striving to do good work and to make a difference and to build programs that outlast her, but it's the relationships. And, I agree. I think that I was looking at something this week and I saw where, it was today. I saw, that app Nextdoor. It's like it's a neighborhood app where you can put your address in there and it'll connect you to like what's going on in your neighborhood. It keeps you alert to any crimes in the neighborhood, things that are for sale. Nextdoor, y'all can check it out. So anyway, I'm on Nextdoor, and this person, what caught my attention was this person said something like, I have a PhD in over 20 years of experience. That's the beginning of their post. And I was like, I've never seen this. Which of my neighbors has a PhD? So I jumped in there and looked, and the rest of their message was something like, and I got laid off in 2025. And they just hit their 12th month. Yeah, they're coming up on a year of being unemployed. And they're looking for a remote job. They were trying to stay in the area, but now they're open to leaving the area. And anyway, they're asking people for like, hey, give me some references to jobs and things that you know. Someone put in the comment, it was the coolest thing, right? So it was like, the person said, love and light to you. Those are my words, not theirs. They were like, sorry to hear about you fell on hard time. Hey, Dan, and they tagged Dan in their post. Can you help? And then Dan by the way, Dan is a pseudonym. I don't remember the name right now. Dan writes back and was like, DM me. So Dan is a manager, someone who can hire, who was tagged into the post of this neighbor. And before you know it, the person who's looking for work is now connected with the person who has some work. And it's exactly your point that, you just never know where that next opportunity is going to come from. It may not come from just clicking apply across 20 sites. It could come from a neighbor. It could come from a former colleague or coworker. So really getting to know. But now, what advice do you have for people who are really trying to network? What are some good ways of doing that you think you've seen work for yourself or for others?
Yeah, one is your friends and family. I think that reach out to them, let them know what you are interested in, and see if they could connect you to someone, or if they have something available for you. I actually have a friend in East Tennessee who is looking for remote work. And, every other day I will pop onto LinkedIn and see if I can find some posts or hire ed jobs and send his way. He will apply immediately. Another thing too, I know when I lived in East Tennessee, there was this group. I don't remember the name of it, but like they would get together. It's like a opportunity just to network once a month, to get to know people in the area, talk about your work, what you enjoy, so forth. And it was really good for me. Another thing too is, if there are any groups on Facebook, try to find those Facebook groups and share your story as much as possible.
Yeah, I just recently put a video out, because one thing I know people do, I only know this because of my day job, where we're hiring adjuncts in the School of Education, and there are a couple other positions on campus, that increasingly people are using AI to apply for jobs. And I'm not against it. I just think that we should, what is it? I saw somebody say this, caution you that when using it, you really want to use the tool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if we were co-teaching or if I was teaching myself, but I had a moment in my psych class where I think we were co-teaching, and some lecture we were sharing, and we asked the students to do something. And then they all sent us back. If it was 40 students in the class, 25 of them had this same response. Like, let's say that we were telling them some framework that has 5 parts to it. They got the 4 right, but that 5th one was not what we taught, but 25 people said it. And we were on a plane. I remember this. And I was like, watch this. And so we opened up chat. I typed it in, hit enter. Sure enough, chat sent back the 4 plus this 5th one, this mystery answer that we didn't give them. So we decided to confront it in class. And it's not like we don't want them to use AI. We encourage them to use AI as a tool, but you can't just like copy paste and then put it in there. The reason why I'm saying it is, I was able to tell, and you were able to tell, because we saw the whole set of papers. Had we seen any one of those papers, it might not have stood out to us. So for anyone who's applying for jobs, who's looking to upskill and get out there, I know AI is tempting and it's useful. It is a good tool. Talk to us about how to use it. But if you are applying and, dropping the link in there and then taking the cover letter, dropping in there, clicking send, apply, taking another one, dropping it, hit apply, just remember that manager is seeing all of the people who did that and is wondering, now, why does this letter from this person in Wisconsin sound like the letter from this person from North Carolina, which is almost identical to this person from Tennessee? And it's because that AI is sort of learning and being trained on the job you're asking it for. A much better approach would be to use the AI, and a couple things. One, if it drafts the letter, then go back and edit it. Put your own, because like it'll tell you, hey, I'm applying for this job. Here are my skills, but maybe you can add some, for examples. I did this in this job and achieve these results. That starts to personalize the letter. The second thing you could do is not just through the letter. I offer in that video I put out there that you can use the AI to say, here's the job I want to apply for. Here's the company I'm applying to. Tell me 2 or 3 problems that they're facing right now that I could solve for them. And then use that information in your letter to show them that, look, I'm attuned to who you are. I'm staying up on the kind of issues you're facing, and I can help solve it. What do you think?
I actually agree with everything that you kind of said. All of that is pretty insightful. I think the biggest thing is like, just a lot of people are putting the job description in, getting whatever ChatGPT gives, and just immediately copy and pasting without any revisions, without any edits. And again, like, it's becoming more and more clear that when you read someone's cover letter, that is very similar to everyone else. So I actually, this is kind of like, I know we're talking about jobs, but it's also something that we kind of see when students apply to scholarships. I know a lot of people, they'll read like the first 2 or 3 sentences, immediately believe that it's AI, and will push it to the side. So it is important for you to have an ear to process, use it, chat or the AI as a tool, have a conversation with it. I also believe that you should disagree with it at times. If you think it's too agreeable, disagree with it and tell it your opinion and why you believe it. You both should push further into what you're trying to say, and then move forward with that. I also tell a lot of students too, or people, that start drafting it yourself, right? And allow it to, because that's your authentic tone, and those are your word choices, and then allow chat or something else to clean it up for you, and then use that version.
Yeah. I mean, I read a piece yesterday where someone was saying that AI is, their particular issue is AI is seemingly responsible for people not reading as much anymore on their own. As their piece kept going, they were talking about AI also being robbing people of their writing ability. And, if you think about it, it's easy to just get something generated through AI. And I know for myself, I have a particular writing style that if I don't use it, I don't know if I will lose it, but I will become sort of rusty in writing, right? And then every writing task becomes a chore. So I've been really pushing myself to just keep my writing regimen up so that there was a point in time where if someone said, hey, write a book chapter or write whatever, I'd be like, piece of cake, just go right to it, because I was so in the rhythm of writing. But then life happened and work happened and deadlines happened. And then we had a book chapter that was due. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a little bit more work than normal. So for those that are out there using it, yeah, it is a tool. You're right. Relationships are important. We're going to come to that in a moment. And certainly, we do need to humanize the world again. Yes. And, but listen, okay, I don't know if Kim is traveling, my sister Kim, but this is such an aside, and we'll have to come back to it another day. But we were doing something the other day with AI, with chat. And she didn't know that you could talk to chat. By the way, I don't know if y'all know that. You can talk to chat. Press the button, talk to it with your voice, and it will respond, talk out loud to you. And so she loves that feature. So now she's like ready to have a conversation back and forth. So we were having a conversation about how she was feeling, and then chat said what it thought it was. And then we decided to say something back, and then we said something back. And at some point I was like, you know what, let's just go with the conversation. Listen, we got chat to a point where chat said, Kimmy, I'm concerned about you and I want to pray with you. Now, remember, I can't pray, but I can pray with you. And chat started praying. I was like, what is this? It was so, but you got to keep going. Like, she was trying to learn Kim's ways of coping. And somehow we introduced prayer as a particular resource. And anyway, they started talking. So we can humanize the world again, even through AI. Let's turn the page into tonight's first issue. I'm sure all of y'all have heard about it. And it affects one of our colleges and universities. In the US, there are 4,300 colleges and universities. 2,000 of them about are two-year community colleges. 101 of them are historically Black colleges and universities, what we call HBCUs. And this one is featuring what they call one of the meccas of HBCUs, Howard University in the DC area, who unenrolled 502 incoming first-year students right before the fall semester. Fall semester about to start because the university said that the students did not meet deadlines involving tuition payments or payment arrangements, get on a payment plan, financial aid documentation, scholarships, and in some cases required record. You know all about that in your line of work, J'Quen. Howard maintains that it communicated the requirements repeatedly to students from March through July. Obviously, it's not the purpose of our podcast to determine whether or not who's right, who's wrong, who's true, who's not, or less than true. We're just give me the facts so we can talk about it. But Howard has gone on record as saying that they communicated the requirements repeatedly to students through that time. And many students and family, however, said that even if that's the case, they were confused by that information. So communications is important. That's right in your wheelhouse. We'll talk about that. Waiting for these scholarships and aid to be processed, or they were unable to get timely help from university offices because it is the summer and calling people can be difficult. So this decision created this national firestorm as students learned that they lost their place only weeks before classes were scheduled to begin. And at Howard, that's mid-month, August 17th. So some tearful student videos circulated, and many families said it was too late to find comparable housing, financial aid, or even admission somewhere else. As of the latest reporting, Howard has readmitted just over 200 of these students after reviewing individual cases, while hundreds of others remain affected or uncertain. I'll stop there. Anything you'd add to sort of set the context for this?
No, I think you covered that all for sure. I think let's show the video of some of the students' responses after learning that they were unenrolled from Howard University.
Cool. Let me pause it, and then I'll add it to the stage. You can play it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm suddenly unenrolled from my dream school.
This is Isabella Williams, one of over 500 incoming first-year students who were unenrolled from Howard University just weeks before the start of the school year. In a statement, Howard University confirmed students who, quote, did not meet the established payment arrangement, or scholarship and other financial aid reporting deadlines were unenrolled. Members of the Howard University community are calling the university's handling of the situation unacceptable, with some unenrolled students pointing to miscommunications with academic advisors.
She had told me that I was all covered and I didn't have to worry about anything, and that if I get an email saying that I need to pay July 10th, I can just ignore it. I'm all covered. I'm good.
Many are turning to social media to share their frustrations with the situation.
So honestly, this whole situation is really disheartening.
Tell me, Howard, what am I and hundreds of other students supposed to do now?
The university said they provided multiple detailed communications throughout March, April, May, June, and July to first-time in college students and families on steps needed to secure enrollment for the fall 2026 semester.
We had not received communication or complete documentation from that group of students. And so we felt it was our responsibility to let those students know that we will be disenrolling them so that we could plan appropriately for the fall. And so, yes, we have to do a better job of how we communicate the information. I absolutely agree. But I want people to be clear that we were earnest in our ability here to try to communicate what we were doing and to try to get people to come in and get a really good start as they come in as well.
Though some students like Isabella were able to have their decisions overturned, the university president says this will not be the case for the vast majority of students who were unenrolled.
When I was promised.
Wow.
So I saw this story, I think when it first came out, and then you and I think either you sent it to me and we had a conversation about it. And I was shocked. One, because that we are in the enrollment cliff, and we talked about that on this show multiple times, basically meaning that there are fewer traditionally aged students coming directly from high school to college enrolling. So to see 500, that's a pretty large number. So that was alarming to me. Just someone being in the admission space that, with us knowing that there are fewer students coming to college, how can institutions afford to unenroll 500 students? I'm not sure. In terms of the communication part, all institutions do it differently. I think once you kind of move through orientation, post-orientation, a lot of institutions that I know of begin to send communications to students' institutional email address rather than their personal email. I firmly believe this is something I've said in many meetings that I've been in, that students do not check their student email or their university email before coming on campus. A lot of them don't even know they have a university email, so they don't know why to check it. I know when I was going through school, I didn't check mine until I went to my very first class on campus, and they were like, "Hey, listen, you're in a different world now. I'm not communicating with you through your Yahoo account or your Gmail account. It will be your EDU account. So always check it, download it on your phone, check it regularly, because that's the only way I'm going to be communicating with you." Another question that I had, and I sent it to you through text when we were talking about it, is like, do we use text messages? A lot of students are easy to interact with through or connect with through texting versus email. Or, when they came on orientation, did we have those conversations with them? Clearly, there were some conversations, because one of the students said that an advisor said, if you get an email saying that you have to complete this task before July 10th, just ignore it. So again, there's a lot of maybe, we need some training across faculty staff to understand the importance of completing them, so students can secure their place on campus and be there for the fall.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are several kind of issues embedded in here, and I want to get to the communication one, because I know that's something that we've talked about in our own work and in our separate professional roles and the like. And listen, for those of you who are listening, those of you who watch, drop some comments in the chat. Let us know what your thoughts are. So I've had several reporters reach out and say, "Hey, could you give us a perspective, either as a scholar who writes about HBCUs, or as a director of a center at an HBCU, as a chief academic officer at an HBCU? What's your perspective?" And, my perspective on this matter is actually not shaped by most of those identities, because I think that these are complicated issues, right? Obviously, I could see either side, because there are multiple sides to this, and I'm really not inclined to take a side, because one, without more evidence and information, I have no idea what happened here. But I do know that there are some issues embedded in this, because one, on the institution side, there are, as we both know, you got to have deadlines. You have to have rules. You have to have regulations. We say to people all the time, look, higher ed and education is a business. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, because they want to hear that education is something more than that. It's not exactly like Amazon or exactly like a bank, but here's how I think about it as a business. One, we offer a good or service called education, especially at the higher education level in this country. We charge for that product or that service called education. And based on the perceived quality and value of that product experience, people pay money through the form of tuition and all sorts of payments. And then we, as a college, employ people, right? So we have a vision, we have a mission, we've got KPIs and goals, we have personnel, we have policies that govern how we interact. And our goal, whether we're for-profit or not for-profit, is to make sure that we have enough resources to cover all of our expenses, right? And so the money coming in through tuition and all other kinds of services has to match the expenses, what we're putting out. Okay, so to do that, you got to know how much money you're working with sometimes. And that means you can't wait forever for people to pay their tuition. You do have to put a deadline on it. Now, is it this deadline or that deadline? That's up for institutions to decide based on their financial situation. But once you set that deadline, we will all be familiar with, knowing that a bill can become past due. And most companies don't allow you to have a past due bill forever and ever and ever. And at some point, you got to just say, okay, well, you're not going to get this. You're not going to get this apartment. You're not going to get this car, or you won't keep this car. And in this case, you may not come to this college or institution. Again, I'm not saying that's what happened in every single case. I'm just saying that that's a perspective. And if that is the case, I know it's got to be crushing to students and families who wanted to go to a particular school, but because of the business side of it, especially with 2 MBAs on the screen at this point, I can understand that. Financially, it makes sense. Now, listen, those calculations can happen without even a human being involved. You can have a spreadsheet run automatically and generate a list of who's paid, who's got a past due balance, and whose past due balance exceeds 100 days, 50 days. Here's where I think the humanity has to come back in. Someone has to look at that list and decide, is it accurate? Here's a big word. Is it just? Is it fair? Does it reflect our best understanding of who's on the other side of that spreadsheet? Because some students, for instance, we all will know that some students might call in and say, hey, I'm waiting for a scholarship from my church and it's not going to get processed this week. It's going to get processed August 5th. And someone on the phone says, okay, no problem. I'm gonna note your account. But if that notation doesn't stop the algorithm from running, that student who just got a promise of you're good, as long as it gets you by the 5th, you're good, gets cut on the 1st. When these systems aren't integrated, or when someone doesn't put it in the system, or when I've seen it so many different places where some syntax or code is written for a list to be generated and for a certain thing to happen, disenroll, unenroll, enroll, whatever, it's registered, unregistered, and people get caught because the systems aren't integrated. They're not talking. Sometimes they're not updated. Here's the other thing. Mistakes happen, technical glitches happen, all sorts of things. So you do still need the human side to come and make sure that what we're doing is, here's what I know, accountability works both ways. Yes, students and families are responsible for the things that they do. Institutions are also responsible for making sure that these requirements are clear. Here's my last point, because I want to kick it back over to you. I think I've had people, in fact, this just happened to me today. I won't even say much more than that, but someone said to me today, did you do something? They text me and said, did I do something? And I said, no, I didn't do it. And they said, I sent you an email this morning. Well, this morning I got up, I showered, I brushed my teeth, I got dressed, and I went to church. And I didn't even think I didn't know this is where the conversation was going to go, but I want to say this. A message has not been communicated just because you press send. I didn't see it. So how do we make sure, and this is a pickup for anybody who works in IT or someone who's out there looking for a big idea. I think universities are hungry for some system that allows us to know, this is why people don't like read receipts. Although sometimes I like them because at least the person got the message. I sent a message the other day to 2 of my friends and I didn't notice the little delivered under the bottom didn't go there. And so I was sitting there like, geez, why didn't they ever respond? But when I went back to look, it never said delivered. So I clicked send, but they never got it. And so how do we make sure that these messages that colleges, universities send to students and their families, sometimes about financial aid, sometimes about deadlines, sometimes about getting your ID or, accessing housing, that we know they actually got it? Because sometimes we don't. We just know we sent it. And then we assume, oh, well, if we sent it, they must have received the message, therefore we hold them accountable. I don't know. That can be tricky when people don't get them.
Well, boo-boo, let me tell you something. I don't know what system Howard uses or anyone else. I do know a few that are near me, just because we kind of work together. But we use a system at my institution, and when we send communication, especially email, it tells us when you open it. So, with that being said, something that we do on our end is audit our communications. We can code and filter in the system to only tell us the students who received communication, who were sent communication, and where the communication was not opened, bounced or skipped. And from there, we can go a little further on why was it skipped? Maybe because, you know, in the email, it was something was misspelled, something was left out. If it was bounced, kind of similar to the same thing. If it was not open, just a different form of communication. We have to figure out what it is. Go back through the application. I know, again, all institutions may not do this. For us, we ask what is it, preferred communication style do you prefer, right? So if it is it text, if it's text, then we have to send a text message. But not to mention though, if you know the freaking deadline is coming up, I think we have to start making some phone calls too. And whether that's a phone call, you know, too, I think in terms of communication, you know, you can't just send a communication at 8 a.m. To a student. It's not the ideal time frame. There are studies out there that tells you when's the best time to send comms for students. The best comms is send it for parents as well, and you should be able to see your open and click rates from there. Again, I'm not saying this is all just simply on the institution and their fault. I think it's too on the students as well. You have to hold them accountable, understanding that, listen, as you get closer and closer to going to school, there are some things you have to complete. And at the end of the day, you kind of nodded to it earlier, is that institutions have a budget, right? That's the CFO's job, working with the president and the board to understand, hey, this is how much is coming in, this is how much is going out. Based on our enrollment, that is when we determine our budget for the year. And then that money gets dispersed across campus, offices, and departments, right? So based on how much money we're making, we then determine how much money we're willing to give across campus in terms of, you know, to the admissions team, to the student services team, to a project over here or over there, because we cannot overspend. It's going to just put us in a bad situation.
Yeah. I mean, so, you know, that's interesting. I mean, because you just pointed to one thing that, you know, underneath it all, you know, institutions are going to do what they want to do and need to do, right? But you just alluded to a system that does let you go and do an audit on how many messages were sent, how many bounced back, how many were open, how long did people read, you know, each message, and how did they get to the message? Was it this? So that's one. Two is, don't just send the email, follow up with a phone call, probably even a text message. So multiple forms of communication. And a lot of this points to a factor that we rarely can see explicitly, and that is resources, right? Because some institutions have the money to have these systems. Some institutions do not have those dollars. And, you know, to have the system as an administrator, college administrator myself, I couldn't just have enough money to have the system. To really have the system, I got to have an abundance of resources so that I can have the system. I can pay for the technical assistance and the upgrades and the technical support. So I can also have the personnel and the staff who can run those systems. So you already see how this starts to separate the haves from the have-nots. And I think that also is an added level to some of these conversations, that sometimes these things happen because there are institutions that are using systems that maybe are homegrown or are not the one that we're talking about, that it provides all of these kinds of supports. And so you really are depending on people to manually go back and do an audit, and human error may occur, or that you are looking for something to happen very automatically, where you run a list and then you unenroll everyone who doesn't hit a cut score because you don't have the time, the personnel, and the resource to go back and vet that list. Again, we're not saying this is the case. We're saying that these are the kinds of considerations that come into these stories. Here's the other piece is the reporters that have asked me to comment. I have rarely commented on the financial aid piece because I've not spent much time working in financial aid. I have not commented much on the admission side because although I gave a keynote at the National Admissions Conference, I've not worked with admissions. What I've spent most of my time talking about is belonging, because that's something that I write extensively about. And I think it is embedded here that students come to college, as we often write about, wondering whether it's Howard or it's Hampton or it's Harvard or it's Yale or it's Walden Online. Do I fit here? Does this institution want me? Will someone help me when I struggle? Is someone in my corner and supporting me, got my back? Do faculty want me to succeed here, or do they want me to fail? You know? And so what we're looking for as students is students are hunting for signs, we call them cues, that I matter, I got support, somebody's got my back, people want me to succeed here. You know, I am a fill in the blank, whatever your mascot is. At Virginia Union University, my day job, we're called the Panthers. Students are looking for a clue that I'm a true Panther. And it might be a t-shirt. It might be a cookout where they learn a secret handshake. It could be that they're at the homecoming and some alumni embrace them and they meet someone who is a business major just like they are. Or they're in a classroom with Professor Dr. Johnson now, and you say something that affirms their interest, that, wow, like he's talking about something I'm interested in, or I get what he's talking about. So it means I'm learning. All of those things are signs, cues, messages that I matter, I'm enough, and I belong. Here's the other side, though. And I'm only saying it for the sake of the conversation. Being abruptly unenrolled can also communicate rejection. It can leave someone feeling unsupported, even if they missed the deadline, even if there's a procedural reason for it. The abruptness and the way it can feel to the human can register psychologically with them as rejection. You don't want me here. I'm just a name on a list, a name and a number on a list. And that experience can damage trust, and it can certainly unravel belonging, because belonging is not just created in classrooms and hallways and residence halls. I just wrote this in that place where we just published the journal articles. It'll come to me in a second. But that belonging is also built in the financial aid office, with the bursar's office, and through every institutional email, social media post, or phone call. So now I mentioned to J'Quen, we put this on text, I'm interested in, like, if someone could study what's the sense of belonging for the students who were abruptly unenrolled. How did that shift? Because I mean, you heard it in the video. Some of these people were like, this is my dream school. What does that do to someone's aspiration to attend? Even if you get re-enrolled, does it still leave a dent? I don't know. It's an open question that deserves some research.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is, like, you make up a good point, which brought me to kind of think about was, let's see, how was it communicated, right? Was the language transactional? Was it cold? Was it stiff? Was it surrounded in policy language, or was it, more understanding and, supportive, trying to figure out, hey, we're unenrolling you, but hey, contact this number, email this person, we will try to help you out immediately, get you some assistance. I think that too is plays a major role, because if it's just like, hey, you're unenrolled because you didn't pay your balance, period, thank you, that's damaging. I know another person said that it was really hard to get in contact with individuals on campus too. I think that friction point can damage trust. I think, also telling someone that they don't have to worry about paying their balance at this time, and then they're abruptly unenrolled, kind of damages trust as well. But I think, again, we're talking about, when we look at in terms of belonging, like, interactions do matter. We want healthy, positive interactions, and there could be a moment where it could be someone's dream school, but something can happen, and one may not feel like they belong at that institution again. So again, it's very important for us to think about, like, when we make these decisions, when we put these policies in place and these practices, how will it affect someone? How will they interpret this interaction or whatever may transpire? I think we have to think about that to ensure, no matter, I understand that it's a business, but we're dealing with humans, not robots.
Yeah. Well, I want to say one more thing, then maybe see if you have a final comment. We'll take a quick break. Don't y'all go anywhere. We're not going there yet. Just stay tuned. But, I'm thinking about the dissertation again and the communications. how do we know, like, for example, if we depend on, I'm not saying this is the case, but if we depend on the email being the message and the vehicle for communication, how do we know we're not dealing with students who are living with all sorts of disabilities, who either email's not the best way to reach them, right? Because maybe they don't have, if they're dealing with a serious visual impairment, they don't have a reader, digital reader, they don't have a Braille system that can interpret, they don't have some, like they don't have the text to audio converter, right? That requires money, time, support. Or if we're sending it just reminds me that we never know who's on the other side. And I'm not saying we don't know, because we actually can know some of this, right? Because we got their applications give them an opportunity to disclose. I'm not saying all people do disclose, but are we using these information systems, their high school transcript, their high school record, their application, the notes from the recruiter who met them and their families, and all of this to put together a strategy for how best to communicate with this student and their family? I'm pretty sure all of our institutions, all 4,300 of us, could do better in that regard.
I think we can. We can cross-reference applications. We can cross-reference with the ADA team to figure out if there's anyone who has submitted documentation about their accommodations or the need for accommodations. We can communicate with counselors and ask about, hey, these are your students who are on the list. What do you know about them? However, I do understand that, from my experience, we work in silos a lot. Two, we also work pretty quickly. So there are times we don't really have the time in the day to go to every single office, talk to every single person, figure out every single student, right? Especially when you're working at a large public institution, or even a small institution, right? You maybe just don't have the team or the capacity to do so. There are some folks out there who just don't want to do that extra work to figure out who they're dealing with. But I think because we consistently say more times than not that we want students to succeed and that they belong here, and we'll do everything in our power to assist them, then we have to, change some of the things that we do to signal that.
Absolutely. All right. So y'all have time. You can put some comments in the chat across all the platforms. Tell us what you think about it. If there's some particular issue that you want, or take on this issue you want us to address, you want to hear our perspective about, we invite you to text or call us at 713-496-2717. Again, that is 713-496-2717, or put a comment in the chat. If you haven't already, please go like and subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so you'll know whenever we're going live. You're tuning in to Do Good Work podcast with Terrell and J'Quen. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, J'Quen's going to kick us off with our second and final issue and topic of the night. Don't go anywhere. Remember, it's Sunday and every single day is a gift.
Every day is a gift I get to unwrap. Every morning is a new opportunity. Every breath is a miracle. Every moment is precious and fleeting. Every day I'm alive is a day I'm blessed. Every single day is a gift. I'm not promised tomorrow. I'm not guaranteed next week. All I have is today, and today is enough. Today is beautiful, today is perfect, today is exactly what I need. Every day is a gift I'm not taking for granted. Some people don't wake up this morning. Some people don't get another day. That's why I'm grateful for mine. That's why I appreciate every second. That's why I'm making the most of today. Every day is a gift, and I'm receiving it. Every day brings new possibilities. Every day brings new blessings. Every day is a fresh start. Every day is a chance to be grateful. Every day is a chance to grow, love, and live.
Welcome back. Again, we appreciate you all tuning in tonight and just listening to us kind of explore some options or some topics that matter to us and we believe that are important. The next one we found on LinkedIn. Someone posted about, well, first of all, how can I get this up here? This is interesting. I did that again. Can you put it on screen for us?
Yep.
Here we go. Cannot see the title, but that's okay.
Hold up. There you go.
Titled, Your Students Aren't Leaving Because They Don't Belong. They're leaving because of these 5 institutional blind spots, going through financial barriers, inaccessible advising, confusing pathways, basic need insecurities, and administrative friction. Now, the first thing that I kind of had a problem with that called my attention to this was the title, Institutional Blind Spots. Again, through the dissertation and some of the work that we do, that is pretty much ableist language. I would probably move it or change it to 5 structural gaps that push students to the exit. I think it still gets the message across versus what we have here. But one, I think this also, it is connected to belonging. Like if you do have financial barriers, we also know like through Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that second band, safety and security, is not just physical safety, it's also emotional safety and security. It's also financial safety. Belonging is tied to mattering. So again, the components of mattering is attention, importance, dependence, ego extension. And when a student can't resolve a balance or navigate aid, the institution is signaling to them or communicating to them, even if it's unintentional, that their persistence isn't a priority. We have said this, even connecting it back to Harvard in their situation. And it's not just Harvard. There's many other institutions that have this issue as well. Harvard was just the story. But students who don't pay their balance, you will be unenrolled. If you're not on a payment plan, or if you don't pay it in full, you're going to be removed from the institution. When you have a financial balance that is not paid or resolved, it does create background stress. We want students to connect on campus. We want students to be involved on campus, whether that's joining clubs or organizations, investing in campus life. Students are cognitively and emotionally bogged down by this financial barrier because they understand the consequences of not paying it. So again, if you do not meet that, if you don't feel secure in financially on campus, you can't even reach belonging. You can't even connect with others on campus, whether that's your faculty, the staff, or the students. And I'll toss over to you to just tackle this first one before we move to the next one.
The first one is financial barriers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I like about this, which for most people who know my work probably would think I would not like this much. And I have something to say about belonging, obviously. But what I do like about it is that it flips the debate from focusing on students to directing much needed attention to the institution. And that is in keeping with, I think, the way I see my own research and scholarship, and hopefully my leadership, is that it's not about students not belonging or leaving, but it's about an institutional design problem, right? So their students can have all the academic support and all of the academic ability in the world, but if we don't design spaces for them, and in this particular first bullet, if we don't provide financial support and help them understand the financial aid process. I remember when I was in college, and here's one, and it's not really exactly financial. Well, it is financial. 2 things that I remember. One is you kind of remember something about loans and grants. And I think people generally were saying like loans, you had to pay back, grants, you didn't have to pay back. But listen, when you're 18, 19, you have no earthly idea. Maybe you do out there listening, that's fine. But a lot of us don't know what that means when people say pay it back and like what that feels like. Because you imagine that there's going to come a point in your life where you're going to have to pay back your loans. But what you might miss when you're standing in the financial aid office as an 18, 19-year-old, or even as a 25-year-old adult learner, is that means that you're going to have this hefty student loan bill right up against your rent or your mortgage, in close hand with your car insurance and your cell phone. Like this can be hefty. And so I just remember that not hitting me the way that probably people thought it did just because they told me. The second thing is that I want to talk for a moment about aid refunds. So I remember three things happened when I went to University of Virginia undergrad. One, I got my first credit card on my own. Shouldn't have done it. It was stupid, very silly idea. But I was going into the library. Someone said, I don't know, what's it called? Capital One. Someone said, hey, if you come fill out this form and get this credit card, we'll give you a free t-shirt and a water bottle and something else cool. And I thought, oh, cool, sure. And I filled it out, got this credit card and got my little gifts, and then used the credit card, had no financial literacy. No one had told me anything about how to use a credit card appropriately, how to pay it off, whatever. I just started charging it up with bubble gum and Skittles. And before you know it, I've got this big hefty balance, and that becomes a financial barrier for me. That's one. Two is I would come to the point where I would need to take out some loans, and I would borrow whatever I borrowed. And then people started talking about these refund checks. We're like, oh my gosh, Terrell, if you go and get this loan, you'll get a refund check. And I was like, what is that? And they're like, well, at some point in the year, UVA is going to cut you a check. And you're going to have hundreds of dollars and you can just have it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Now, that's not exactly true. I mean, yes, it's true. Practically, you will get a check or you'll get some money and you'll be able to have it. You should give it right back to them, because you will be responsible for paying that money back at some point in your life if you got it through a loan. And so I was using my refund check to do some unmet basic needs, because at some point I live off campus. By living off campus, I don't have access to the residence hall or the dining hall all the time. And even if I did, I didn't want to eat it all the time. So I would go out to eat and I'd pay with my refund check money. And before you know it, these financial barriers become a major issue. Here's what we're saying. I hear this article trying to say is some students leave because we don't do the institutional design work to make sure that when students get that credit card offer, whether it's in the dining hall, the library, or the residence hall, that they also get the training, the education for how to deal with credit cards. That if students need food, clothing, and shelter, that we're helping them meet those basic needs so they don't depend on refund checks and credit cards and all sorts of things. I think that that's an institutional design where, yes, someone would say, well, that's up to the student. The student should have known that. Well, everyone doesn't know that. And some students come from families who don't have credit cards. So we can't assume that all people are sort of, the playing field is level there, right? So I think because the institution is going to allow the bank or the credit card company to come on campus to market to its students, another design element is to match that with the kind of proper financial literacy training and coaching that they need. What do you think?
Yes, I agree. I think that, in terms of financial barriers, we have to be very clear on what a subsidized loan is, an subsidized loan, grants, scholarships, and how some can work in your favor. All can actually work in your favor. But again, if you have a loan, being going through a class or a training or, a session talking about, for your unsub loan, this is how much your interest rate will be, every day. If you have a subsidized loan, it does not accrue interest until 6 months after you graduate. If you do receive a refund check, you can put it back towards your education, or you can use it for other needs that you, such as, phone bill, housing, so forth. But again, I think it's just educated on this and just be a financial literacy course, so they can put themselves in the best position to succeed. I think we also know that finances is a tremendous barrier. I read something recently that students and families About 75% of them, want some form of higher education degree, but 63% believe that it's not financially doable. So again, what are we communicating with them? How are we educating them around the finances? At my institution, there are many who come to school, come to orientation and realize that the balance is so large that they cannot do it. This next year, we're going to try to do a better job of communicating that up front early on in January, and have webinars with our financial aid team with students that income in class, just to educate them on the finances, what to expect, how to prepare for it, so they can be in the best position moving forward.
Yeah, I like belonging is important. Obviously, you're talking to two folks who believe that, but so too is finances, and rarely do college student success models include finances in meaningful ways. I think students can feel loved by faculty, they can have close friends, they can join a club or organization, they can even study abroad. But if they don't have the money to get their books, whether their books are physical or online, to eat, and to have transportation. I met a student at one of my institutions where they ended up dropping out because they could not get to college, right? They don't live on campus. They needed a car. Their car was in bad shape. Consequently, they couldn't get to class. Without getting to class, they can't do their work. Without doing their work, and this was before we were doing a lot of online, they had to just withdraw. Students can have everything academically and socially, but if they can't get their books, their car, the child care, or, I mentioned going to church today, a woman was in a car wreck. And so all of a sudden she's got this huge bill unexpectedly. If they don't have the money to pay for that, then they might withdraw. Now, some people who will listen to this, or some people who are listening, might say, well, that's not our responsibility. I mean, I think we can have a conversation about it. I think that, I think I'm always impressed and excited about shining a light on institutions who do attend to these basic needs of students. So for those of you who don't know, there are institutions out there that have food pantries, that have clothing closets, that have emergency grants. Emergency grants aren't just for financial aid and tuition. They will give you money to help you get that car repaired that just got wrecked, or to access childcare on campus. Name 5 or 6 basic need support. In fact, we had a guy on the show from Rutgers campus who has a basic needs facility or basic needs center on campus. And this is popping up in more numbers across the campus. So anyway, basic needs are critically important, financial aid, but so too looks like is advising.
Yeah, inaccessible advising. I think when we think about advisors, their role is to help students with their course selection and scheduling. That's, again, helping them choose their classes that fit their degree requirement, track progress towards graduation, withdrawal deadlines, add drop process, appeals, academic probation, all these things. So again, part of belonging, it depends on the experience of feeling support and seen, right? So if it's hard to get in contact with your advisor for assistance, then that could make a student feel like they're not supported, they're not seen. And two, like, it's also doing the opposite, right? You're not belonging, but it could possibly signal to the student that the advisor is not reliable, right? They cannot depend on them, and that's part of mattering, right? One of the components is dependence, that I can lean on you, that I can come to you for help to get me through the process of scheduling my classes, understanding when I should schedule my classes, what classes I should be taking, and when they are inaccessible, it does make it difficult to graduate.
Yeah, and we just that piece we published about the belonging intervention, advising is interesting because, a lot of people think of registration as advising. I don't. I think it's one form of advising when a student needs to get registered for class, they say, hey, advisor, I need to get a schedule. And they meet with their advisor and they make out their schedule. That is one form of advising, and it's one, maybe two advising meetings. But advising is also when a student comes and says, like, I don't know what major to declare, or, you know what, I want to declare a major in business, but I'm not sure what job I want. And career services is not the only place that a person can go to get support during that time. An advisor who helps them think about scheduling, about their strengths and their assets, their areas of development, an advisor who just listens to their experiences in the classroom, their ideas of studying abroad or studying away. I think all of that is advising very broadly, holistically. And likely some students do leave because they're either not, you know what, some students may be leaving just because they're getting nothing more than registration. They can't get their advisor to get to know them, you know, and to sit down and talk with them about, I've advised so many students over the course of my career. And I got to tell you, whether they're undergrad, masters, or my doctoral students, there are times I've sat with students and talked for an hour, and we're not talking about their course schedule, and we're not talking about their dissertation or their thesis, but we're talking about their sense of imposter syndrome, this idea that they feel like they're not good enough. And I feel as their advisor, part of my job is to help them name that, confront it, and overcome it. And sometimes it won't be me offering the advice for them to overcome it. I've got to refer them to someone else, another advisor, a counselor, a career center or something. So I think all of those are really important pieces. Advising can become inaccessible when we either don't offer the kind of guidance and support that they need, or we offer it at in a place or a time where they can't access it. I'll button up on this one. I worked at a campus once where my students were coming to me saying, VP, we need so-and-so. And I was like, oh, I'm sure we have that. And I asked my team, the staff who reported to me, I said, don't we offer this support? And they said, yeah, it's over here, whatever. And so then I went back to the student leader and said, we do offer what y'all are looking for. And they said, but it's in a building that closes at 5, and we don't start working on our homework until after 5. And it was one of those institutional design pieces where I learned, you know what, if the students are doing their homework after 5, but we provide all of the tutoring and writing assistance before 5, there's a disconnect. So how do you make sure that you provide it when they need it? That's that inaccessible advising and support piece for me.
Yeah, I like that. You could choose the next one.
So I see that we've already talked about basic needs and security, so I don't have a whole lot more to add there. I'm thinking about the fact that some students aren't leaving just because they don't feel a sense of belonging. It's because of these institutional challenges, design challenges that create confusing pathways for them. That is, either, we spent some time talking about clarity of communication with Howard's scenario or case study, but believe it or not, there are some students who don't know how many credits do you need in order to graduate. They don't even know how many credits they have right now. I have a college student near and dear to my heart who recently learned that in order for certain courses to count toward their major, they have to achieve a certain grade. Now, those of us who work in higher ed, we'd be like, of course you do. We know that. But if you're new to higher education, or you're new to this college, or no one's told you, how would you know it, right? So in their mind, they finish the class. Let's say they got a C. They're like, okay, I finished the class. According to high school, I passed. But at this particular institution, that's not passing if it's your major. So now they were confused why someone's telling them they got to repeat this course. And they're thinking this is an error, when in fact it is right, but it's a policy or a process that they were uncertain about, They were not told coming in. And so, of course, they're now frustrated because they got to repeat a class. By the way, it costs to repeat courses in college. It's not like they give you the class for free. So you're paying the same tuition for the same class again. And in some cases, you're taking it with the same instructor. So if we're going to really create conditions for belonging through institutional design, what we have to do is really make sure that students and their families and their supporters know the requirements, know the processes, know the procedures. They're very clear about it. And I'm going to say it this way. Repetition is a great teacher. So put it in the catalog, put it on the website, write about it in the newsletter, make a social media post about it, put it on email, place a phone call or send a mass text, talk about it at orientation, talk about it in the first year seminar, and make sure the academic advisors review it. Right there, that's a dozen times that student's going to pick up the message that here are some policies you have to know if you're going to be a student here that lead to success. That repetition, and to your point earlier, don't just put it on the student, put it in the parent newsletter, find out when to communicate it to the parent. And parents are broadly conceived because every kid's not coming from mom and dad. They could be coming from auntie, uncle, grandma. Parent, guardian, and supporters. Figure out how to communicate to them because they can reinforce those messages.
I love that. Multiple forms of communication is very key. I think that, a lot of folks, especially the social media part, right, is that marketing communications, some folks may believe that, just because one account shared it, all accounts don't need to share it, right? Which is not clear. It was not true. There are some students who are not following that certain account, but following another one. And that's how they pick up their information. The second thing is what I kind of see in my line of work is housing requirements. Some students are required to live on campus because of the distance from campus. Some students are not required because they live closer to campus in proximity. But understanding, again, the requirements, like if you are, let's say outside a 50-mile radius, but you have a sibling who has an apartment within that 50 miles, and you want to live with them and not take on that extra cost of living on campus. Again, how are you communicating with housing to understand that I'm going to be living here, it's in this area, it meets the requirement, what paperwork do I need to complete? Right? Instead of jumping through hoops and hoops and hoops, because on your application, you said one address, and now on your housing app, you say another address. Another thing too, is that, just because you're admitted to the campus doesn't mean you're admitted to your major, right? There are some additional requirements that you have to meet to be admitted to engineering or business or education, wherever that may be. I know for me, when I was going through the education program in undergrad, you had to have a certain ACT score, right, to be admitted to the education program. Now, again, your freshman, sophomore year, you could take education courses, the 100 to the 200 level courses, but you're not going to be able to move further unless you have either one, got a certain ACT score, or two, you went back and took some tests you had to pass to get into the program. I saw students who did not know that and was ready for their junior level coursework and their senior level coursework, but because they were not admitted at the last minute, they told them like, hey, either you got to go immediately take this test and pass it. And again, like you said, that costs, right? And it's probably like $50 to $80 that a college student may not have. The parents may not have it immediately to help them. So you did see a lot of students kind of change their majors because of that. So again, it is very important to have clear processes and requirements and let students know exactly what they are.
Absolutely. You got the last one.
Administrative friction. This again talks about slow responses, conflicting information, and unnecessary complexity. For me, I think what's unnecessary and it's very complex is the ADA compliance, where students have to complete a certain form just to get accommodations. They have to go through a medical professional that fills out a paperwork, and the paperwork is very lengthy. Some institutions require you to have multiple sessions with the medical professional, especially if it's not your primary care doctor back at home. And then, at that point you are losing time, right? You have been 3-4 weeks into the class, and, some students are behind in that. Slow responses. I think that there are some students who, reach out to faculty, their advisor, student services, whatever it may be, letting them know that they have an issue and they don't receive a response in, until a couple of days. Again, that causes frustration. That's a friction that we have to resolve. So students, so students can feel like they are important at our institutions, because again, we have recruited these students. We have told them that, hey, we support you, we care about you, we value your success. And then there are signals and cues that come on campus, or the interaction with certain people on campus that tell them the exact opposite.
Yeah, I think these administrative hurdles, some people call it red tape, and I get it. Some people, I don't know, I sometimes I hear these voices, not really voices in my head, but I hear these perspectives that are sometimes echoed like, well, that's just real life. They got to learn how to deal with it. And, we can't coddle them. I don't know if removing administrative friction and hurdles I would call coddling people, or if, because I do know there are folks out there, this is especially in the HBCU world, who believe that, waiting in a long, long line proves that you are committed and you're serious about your college education. And so, if we make things too easy, and people remember having to wait in long lines to register for classes, and they think that taught them something. I'm not here to dismiss that or to challenge your memory or what you learned from it. I'm just saying that I think with the advance of technology and, all of the tools we have available now, there are multiple messages that can be sent when you experience slow response, conflicting information, or unnecessary confusion. One could be, man, they're testing me and they're letting me prove my resilience. Okay, maybe. But I think the other could be, in the belonging space, a question of, do I really matter here? I know for myself, a very practical example is my cell phone is through AT&T. Shout out to AT&T. Well, whoever y'all got services with is fine. But and I've been with AT&T for a long, long time. And so when I called one day and they kept punting me around and they had me on hold for long periods of time, at some point I was frustrated, which anybody would be frustrated by being on hold for a long time. But there was a point where I realized, you know what, my frustration has a certain flavor to it, because I feel like I've been with y'all too long for you to treat me this way. I felt like I should be something, priority customer or a loyal customer. Something about my commitment to them should have created some reciprocity to this, where I would have been handled differently. And so the moment I got someone on the phone, that's what I told them. It's like, I've been with you too long to be treated this way. Why am I saying this? Because it was at that moment I was also thinking about higher ed and belonging. Every institutional experience or process sends a message. And one of my favorite ways to explain belonging these days is to help people understand that students don't just experience belonging through people, they also experience it through systems. And so as you see on the screen, every process communicates something. How long financial aid takes to process, registration holds and parking, email responses, advising appointments, office hours, transfer credit evaluations, admissions decisions. The longer the time, these are all more than just administrative tasks. We have to see them as potential belonging experiences. Imagine a student who gets a timely response, gets admitted in an orderly and sanitized kind of way, also gets their financial aid package given to them in an appropriate time. They get their parking pass, they arrive to campus, and they go to orientation, and they have a name tag, and it's seamless. Imagine how they're feeling as a student at that campus. But then imagine the student who has to call and say, I still haven't gotten my admissions decision. They say, let me check this. Says, oh yeah, you're admitted. You were admitted 4 weeks ago. Never got the communication. Who goes to orientation and they're fighting for parking. They come inside on a rainy day and they don't have a name tag, and then they're sent to the wrong room, and then they've missed 30 minutes of orientation because they were in the wrong room because they were handled by someone who didn't know. Imagine that student's sense of belonging. So I agree. Some students aren't leaving just because they don't belong, or they're not. It's because they're made to feel like they don't belong. And sometimes it's through the financial barriers, the inaccessible advising, the confusing pathways, the basic need and security, and the administrative friction. What would you add?
Nothing much, man. I'm done with that.
All righty, y'all. So listen, thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Do Good Work Podcast. We have enjoyed having you with us this Sunday, and we want you to make sure that you get ready because the week is about to start for everybody who's about to start back to school. Wishing you all a very safe kickoff. I know most of the faculty are going to be returning back. Y'all got orientation, you got workshops and skills, and then about a week or two, we're going to have some students who will be going back to school all across the country. And something that we're going to try to pull together is we're going to get some of them into the studio so we can talk to them about how does it feel to go back to school in 2026. And so stay tuned. Do us a favor. If you haven't already, go like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you in just 7 days for yet another episode of Do Good Work Podcast. Listen, we're going to close out with our ending outro. And then my mom likes a little woman who's typing. So we're going to put the little girl up, play a song. And y'all can stay until the stream ends. Just remember that it's not too late to turn around your week. You still got time. So if you're having a rough week, you can do a couple of stretches, go for a walk, get some fresh air, and change your perspective, change your attitude, change the folks around you. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Do Good Work Podcast. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to Do Good Work Podcast. We hope you found today's conversation informative, uplifting, and insightful. Don't forget to like and share this episode with your networks. Follow us on social media at Do Good Work on X, formerly Twitter, for real-time updates, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more. Until next time, friends, don't be afraid to do something, but do something good. Do good work.
For my people, my tribe, my circle, for the ones who show up, who care, who stay, for the ones who celebrate me, believe in me, support me, for the connections that matter, the relationships that grow. I'm grateful for the love I receive and get to give. My tribe is my greatest blessing. I'm grateful for my inner circle, the people who know me deeply, love me anyway, the people who challenge me, inspire me, make me better, the people who I can be 100% myself around, without judgment, without fear. My tribe makes my life rich with meaning. I'm grateful for the chosen family I've created, for the people who feel like home, for the bonds that were meant to be, for the connections that were divinely arranged, for every conversation, every laugh, every moment. My gratitude for my tribe is endless. I used to think I had to do life alone. I used to believe that asking for help was weakness, but my tribe showed me that connection is strength, that community is beautiful, that I'm more powerful with my people. I'm so grateful for them. I'm grateful for my tribe. They're my lifeline. I'm grateful for my tribe. I'm grateful for my tribe. They're divine. For the people who love me unconditionally, I'm grateful for my tribe. So